Hi, I'm Heyzeus, and this video is actually a couple of things. It is, first of all, going to look at why I think people unbox cases and what the psychology behind it is, but is also going to be the first part in a mini-series I'm going to be doing on the value of knives in Counter-Strike, and in particular, the difference in the value of different knives in different cases. And you'll see why I'm combining the two fairly quickly in this video. So, we'll start on the first question. Why are people unboxing these? Not as a personal question, but having a look at what the metrics in CSGO tell us, and I'll go on a bit of a narrative here to explain what I think the reason is. A lot of people open cases, a lot of people. About a year and a half ago, someone tried to, very tentatively, calculate the number of Chroma 3 cases that had been opened, and this was only about 4 months after that case was introduced, and keep in mind, the Chroma 3 case was no barn burner. There was nothing special about that case. It didn't perform particularly well, it didn't perform badly either, it's just an average case. Now, he got a rough estimate of about 2 million cases being opened in the 4 months after that case came out. And there is a lot of uncertainty there, but this uncertainty goes in both directions. For example, this was calculated by looking at the total sales volumes of non-stat track mil-spec skins. So obviously this is going to include a whole bunch of repeat sales, but on the other hand it also ignores restricted and stat track skins, which are about 25% of what you get when you open a case. So I think overall about 2 million is a good number. It's only one for every 5 people playing CSGO at that time, and it also means in the process about 5,000 knives were unboxed, which may or may not sound like a lot to you. But not all cases are made equal. Let's take the Revolver case for example. Remember this?
Good shit.
Whoa! Yeah, well, around the time that was happening, we also got this lovely case, and I actually mean that. I think this case has some really nice skins in it. I think it is better than the average case. And someone who agreed with me was Septix. Now, Septix is the owner of CSGO, which is a fabulous website, but back when this case came out, he was an active YouTuber doing investment content for the CSGO economy. And he looked at the skins inside the case, he thought they looked pretty good, he sort of looked at the community reaction on Reddit, the community seemed very positive about these skins, and more or less came to the following conclusion.
So far skins are received very well, extremely well. They will not, I don't think the hype around them is as good as the Phoenixes or the Huntsmans. I believe the Chroma 2s, like I said before, they'll be the next Phoenixes.
And this type of analysis was considered particularly relevant back then because people still thought long-term case investing was viable. The entire community was effectively under a collective illusion, which wasn't really fully shattered until the market shock in July 2016 due to the gambling scandals. So people were really interested in how popular cases were going to be as an indicator of how good they'd be to invest in. Now, the Revolver case proved to be a famously unpopular case. As you can see from this chart, the Revolver case is there in green. It was only on active rotation for a very short period of time. While it was on active rotation, its key sales were extremely weak. That's generally a sign that not many people are opening them. And the fact that Valve was very quick to pull these cases only reinforces that. So where did Septix go wrong here? Because I think he made a reasonable call at the time. The Revolver case has nice looking skins, and if you're being rational about this, if you're opening cases, most of the time you're going to get crap. So it makes sense to go for cases where that crap is at least nice looking. At least there'll be a possibility of getting a nice play skin or something like that. Well, I have a theory about why the Revolver case failed quite badly and why Septix's prediction didn't quite pan out. And I'm going to suggest that his problem was he was thinking about things a bit too rationally. To explain what I mean, basically, Valve doesn't directly determine how much skins in cases are worth. They set the key cost, which is a kind of benchmark, but opening cases is only going to lose you money if people are opening too many cases. And you would assume, normally, that we'd reach an equilibrium point where the average value of an item in a case is roughly the same as the price of a key. Obviously, a lot of that value would be in rare, expensive items, but provided you open up enough cases, in the long run, it should balance out. But does it? Well, 3Clicks Philip did a very detailed video on this, and he found that you're getting back about 67% of the money you put in. Now, this was some years ago, it may have shifted a bit. It's also possible that this figure was a bit inflated because the guy he analysed had some good luck with a couple of very valuable skins, but it shows you that there's a big disequilibrium, which is a bit weird. This is normally the sort of stuff that shouldn't be happening in a free market. And there's a speech that a Valve employee gave on skins where she actually explained that the dev team was surprised with how much people opened cases. Apparently we vastly outperformed their expectations. A proud accomplishment, I guess. But the fact that people are opening up cases like this suggests something to me. It suggests that people aren't opening cases thinking about what their long run return is going to be, or whether the garbage skins they get will make for okay play skins. I think what they're actually thinking about is this. Okay, maybe he's thinking about something other than Counter-Strike while he does that, but my point is, I think a lot of people who are unboxing these cases are thinking about getting knives. And I think this is where Septix's prediction might have come unstuck, because the Revolver case was the last case to have the original set of knives released by Valve. And this was at a time when not only had they been unboxed to hell and lost a lot of their value, there was a whole bunch of cases with more desirable knives out there. Okay, the stink of this might not have helped either, but I think the knives were the deciding factor. So I'm going to be doing a sort of investigation into this, because not all sets of knives are created equal. They don't all have the same value, which, bit of a metaphor for human society there actually. Social commentary! And if people are unboxing cases in the tiny hope of getting a knife, well, I thought I could do a guide about where you can get the most bang for your buck if that actually ends up panning out. And for everyone else, it's going to be interesting to see where the different sets of knives are in terms of value these days anyway. Now, I will have to approximate prices for this. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of different values at a lot of different float ranges, and I've already got a couple of hundred knives to look at as it is, so I'm going to mostly look past really rare stuff like Ruby Dopplers, Factory New Crimson Webs, Blue Hardened Case Gems. Not that I'm not going to mention them, but they're not the most important thing, because your chances of getting them are, for all practical events and purposes, 0. I'm still going to try and approximate the value of these knives as well as I possibly can. Obviously the actual values are going to be shifting constantly anyway, so they have to be approximate by design. But anyway, I hope this will be interesting because I'm expecting quite a big disparity. And as an added point of comparison, where there are cases where the attraction is something other than a knife, I'll also have a look at that something else and sort of weigh up its relative value compared to how much a knife is worth. So hopefully all of that will be interesting. Today though, we're going to start with the original knives released by Valve all the way back when the first cases came out for CSGO. I think we can truly call this a post-mortem because we're definitely cutting apart a cadaver here. These knives, they've definitely seen better days. For a lot of them, I think it's only going to be downhill from here, but I hope people still come away feeling like I've shown respect and dignity for these ugly, outdated pieces of garbage. So when I talk about the original knives, what I'm referring to is the knives that came with the Arm Steel update in August 2013. There were 5 different knives: the M9 bayonet, the normal bayonet, the gut knife, the flip knife, and the crambit. And there was 12 different finishes, or 13 if you count the vanilla knife. All up, these have been in 11 different cases. The last of these, as I mentioned a moment ago, was the Revolver case. That's from 2016, so it is quite a while ago now. We haven't seen these on active rotation for about a year and a half, which tells you a bit about how unpopular these knives have become. But anyway, we're going to start on the crambits. The crambits are the glamour girl of Counter-Strike knives, second probably to the butterfly knife, but still right up there. And as you can see, top knife here, the crambit fade, that will set you back $500. That is a lot of money for a knife that's been around for about 5 years now. Now, most of your other karambits aren't quite so pricey. It's sort of the mid $100 range is about standard, and all up, the average price of a karambit is about $200. Once you approximate all the prices and average out the different prices for the different float ranges, that's roughly what you get. So that is a fair bit. I mean, these karambits have been dropping for years and years and years. Not dropping, technically, being unboxed. Valve wants their dollars after all. But that is still a fairly reasonable price, because there is going to be a lot of these out there. Even if the recent wave of gambling bots being banned may have thinned out their numbers slightly. Next up is the M9 bayonet. I've never understood the need for 2 bayonets, but what do I know? Once again, the Fade is the most valuable skin, the Crimson Web and the Slaughter are the next ones after it. Once you get past that though, the prices start getting a bit more dire. Most of them are around about $100. In all fairness, like, the average price is still about $150. That's still pretty good, considering it's been around for so long, but from this point onwards, the news gets quite bad. That brings us to the ordinary bayonet, which is basically the poor man's version of the M9. I don't know why you'd pay so much extra money just for a serrated blade, but once again, what do I know? As usual, the Fade is the most expensive one. The rest of them are all really around the $100 mark, aside from the Slaughter. Evidently, that price point is a sticking point. But in all fairness, these knives look so dull. I don't know why you'd buy them these days when there's much nicer stuff available. But anyway, continuing our downward spiral, next up is the flip knives, which I've always thought look like cancer. And to judge by these prices, a lot of people agree with me. The best knife is the Fade, once again. However, unlike with previous knives, a flip knife Fade costs about the same as an average M9 bayonet, which gives you some sense of how unpopular these are. Most of them are around the $60 to $70 mark, which I guess does give you an affordable entry-level knife if you want one. For instance, you know, the flip knife Scorched, it doesn't look like complete cancer, so that could get you a acceptable looking knife for $60. Our average price is about $90, so not particularly popular, you'd have to say. But it can get worse, and it will get worse as we go on to the gut knives. I realise that there are actually people that like these knives, and you know, if you do like them, fair enough, they're very affordable. I wish I shared your artistic taste, because these just don't do it for me. I think they look horrible. Nothing personal, I just don't like them. As you can see, the most expensive gut knife is the Fade. A gut knife Fade is worth about the same as the average flip knife, so that's pretty bad. What interests me most about these knives is that their prices don't seem to go below $50. I find that really odd. I think maybe trade bots have had a role in setting a price floor, perhaps, because I can't imagine there's too much demand for a well-worn gut knife safari mesh. I suspect there is something going on, and it'll be interesting to see whether the prices of some of these collapse now that all the trade bots and the gambling sites have been given a big punch to the gut by Valve. Nonetheless, the point is the average price of these is $60. I've never unboxed a knife personally, so I don't know what the experience is like, but I imagine if you were to, open 200 cases and finally get a knife, only for that knife to be a gut knife Boreal Forest, that must suck a little bit. Haven't done it personally, but I imagine it would probably suck. But anyway, that is the end of our knives. Now, all up, the average price of, all 5 of these groups of knives combined is about $100, and that number is going to be our benchmark to compare all the different sorts of other knives you can get in different cases. Oh, and just to put that $100 in perspective, you need to open up about 400 cases to get a knife on average, so, $2.50 for each key. That's about $1,000, so not an efficient way of getting knives, but I didn't really need to tell anybody that, did I? Before I finish, I'll go back to the cases for a moment, because I said I would. So these are the 11 cases you can get these knives from. Now these 4 at the end are all worth more than $1. The 3 at the very end are all worth more than $5. So we can assume that these cases probably didn't become that expensive because of the knives in them. And that raises the question, is there something else in these cases that is making them so pricey? And the answer, for the most part, is no. The Winter Offensive case, which is about $1 on the Steam market, doesn't have anything special in it. It's got the M4A4 Asimov, that's a cool looking skin. You can get the Mendai, the Orp Redline. These are all cool things, but that's not the reason this case is so pricey. This case is pricey because it's old, there were never very many of them sold, they were taken off active rotation fairly quickly, not many people invested. If we look at two of the other cases here, the 2013 esports case and the CSGO weapons case 1, it's also a similar thing going on. These are very expensive cases, by the way. The 2013 esports case costs about $8. The CSGO weapon case 1 costs about $6. So, very expensive cases. There is iconic stuff in these cases. So, Death by Kitty, the Orp Boom, the AK case hardened. Very iconic stuff, but there isn't anything that's actually worth much. I mean, I know the price tag on the Boom may look a bit deceptive, but once you go in a little bit deeper, as you can see, it's only the factory new version, which is very hard to get. That's worth over $100. The standard Orp Boom is worth more about $10. And, you know, even the case hardened's only worth about $50. I mean, there are the blue gem versions, but they're very rare. The reason these cases are expensive is also because they're old and rare, not many people invested, there aren't many around. If you look at how many are listed on the Steam market, it's well under 1,000. They're just old, they're just rare. But, if we go to the Bravo case, now the Bravo case is the most expensive case in Counter-Strike, aside from souvenir cases. It costs $10, which is a lot for a case. In this particular instance, there is something valuable in it that people want to get when they open it, and that is the AK-47 Fire Serpent. I think it looks like garbage, but it is worth a lot of money. I mean, sure, the factory new Fire Serpents are really, really hard to get, but even if you just get a field tested one, it's worth nearly $200. That's nearly double as much as the average knife you can get out of this case. And if you look at the odds of getting one of these, so we'll do a quick little bit of maths, you can actually see that you're more likely to get a Fire Serpent out of a Bravo case than you are to get a knife. Now, does that make the case worth $10? No, not really, but you can see the Fire Serpent's obviously been a driving factor behind the Bravo case being worth such an exorbitant amount. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. The next video we'll look at the Huntsman knife, the Butterfly knife, those sorts of knives. Not sure exactly how far it's going to go, it depends how long it takes to make. But we will see how their prices measure up to the original knives. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your guts. I'm Heyzeus. Thanks for watching. See ya.